All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. We are live. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, a better way to eliminate debt. Today, we're going to be talking about why does it take 20 years to pay off the first half of a mortgage and you pay off the second half in the last 10 years? What? That's right. 20 years it takes to pay off the first half of the mortgage. I'm going to show you the numbers. I'm going to prove it to you today. And we're going to talk about what can we do about it. So stay tuned. I think you're going to like what you hear. All right, all right, all right. We're back. We're going to get ready to put some things on the screen today. First of all, if you want to do some of this yourself, go to Brett Whistle. Let me put this on the screen because you need an amortization calculator just to be able to understand the numbers. Because without the numbers, it is so hard to get to this. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put this on the screen, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right. And then we'll tell you how to get there. All right. So let's go ahead and add this to the screen. There we are. All right. This is Brett Whistle's mortgage amortization calculator. The name is spelled BRETWHISSEL. All right. BrettWhistle.net. And the reason why we use this is so that you can easily add up what is going on with these numbers. Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at, I'm going to put in, let me change my setup here. Okay, let me see here. Change my setup so that we can see what's going on. All right. Oh, by the way, this is what we're talking about today. 20 years versus 10 years. The bank gets the first 20 years. You get the last 10. And that's even if you get there. All right. We're going to show you how all of this breaks down today. All right. So let me go ahead and change our setup. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to put into this mortgage calculator 400. The median home price now in the US is about $410,000. Okay. And the interest rate is about 6.5%. There we go. And we're going to take a look at this. So $410,000. All right. So to cut that in half, you're talking about $205,000. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this thing. Let me see how big I can make it so that you can see what's going on. I'm going to take me, see if I can take me out of the picture altogether. All right. No, I can't. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's scroll down to the payment. The payment is $2,591.48. That's number one. Let's take a look at the summary. How much interest does the bank want on this mortgage at 6.5%? $522,932. How was that 6%? 522,000. I want you to see this because you need to get a sense of why it takes 20 years to pay off the first half of a mortgage. Number one is that 6.5% really means 127% interest by the time you're done. You're going to pay back 127% of what you borrow. That means you're going to borrow more money. You're going to pay more money in interest than you'll ever pay in pay more money in interest than the principal borrowed. Isn't that crazy? That is crazy. All right. So let's talk about this. And where did Howard go? Howard was in here for just a second. Okay. So let's go in and let's show you why that matters. Okay. So out of that first payment, only $370.65. This is the equity that you're getting every time you make a payment. The equity is the difference between how much you owe and how much the house is worth. So when you make this payment, ladies and gentlemen, $370.65 is the first amount that goes to principal, and they keep the rest, $2,220.83. Do you think that's fair? That it costs $2,220.83 just to get $370.65 worth of equity in the home that you're purchasing. So we're going to get into that, what's really going on here, because you're not purchasing the house. You're not. The bank purchased the house. What you're doing is purchasing your equity back in the most inefficient way possible, because that's the way it's set up. We have been taught to look at the wrong thing. We've been taught to look at the interest rate. We've been taught to look at the payment. We've been taught to look at how much we borrowed. But what really is going on is you're buying your equity back pieces at a time, and the amount that you have to pay to get the equity is enormous. But everybody does it. Nobody questions it until today. We're going to show you how to figure this out for yourself. Get this amortization schedule and you can do it yourself. Brett Whistle. All right. So here's what's happening. We're going to take a look at cumulative principal and cumulative interest. That means it's easy to add up the principal and the interest paid on when you use this calculator. In the first year, you pay this loan down by $4,582.68. But look at this. How much interest is paid in the first year? $26,515.08. In other words, it costs $26,500 just to buy $4,582 worth of your equity back from the bank. This is the way it's set up. But I want to tell you, before you get away from this, before you start getting discouraged, there is a way to turn this around so that it doesn't have to be this way. That's coming later in the show. So stick around. So now let's take a look at the first few years here and see why it takes 20 years. So this is year one. Here's year two. How you doing, Stephen? Colette. All right. Who else is watching us online? Check in online in the comment section so I can see who you are. All right. And I'll shout you out. Listen, second year, $9,400 to principal. That's yours, but it costs $52,000 of your dollars. So I need you to understand that every time you make a payment, we have to add these two numbers together just to give you an idea. Let me put this on the screen. So we've got 52,000. Okay. 52,000. 723 and 23 cents plus, all right, plus the 9,472.29 that goes to you. This is your part. Okay, $9,472.29 equals a total of $62,195.52 paid out in the first 2 years on this mortgage, but only $9,472 of that counts for you to pay back the loan. $52,000 is discounted from your payment and goes to the bank. So while what you're trying to do is buy back all of your equity that the bank bought. All right. So let's find out what's going on here. Let's see how long it takes us to get to $210,000 to pay it down. So That's that's 3, 4, 5. We're going to keep going. Keep going. I'm looking over here. We're at 363,000. Okay. We need to pay it down to 210,000. I mean 205,000. Okay, we're still going. We're still going. 200 and right here, right around 205,000. Okay. It takes 256 payments to pay off half this loan. Let me put my calculator back on the screen. Okay. 256 payments, 256 divided by 12 is 21.3 years. 21 years to pay off half the loan. You pay off the second half in 9 years. All right. So Don, that's 6.5%. That's $400,000. Let's just say we're gonna duplicate this tab. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. Okay. Let's get this off the screen. So we're gonna start over. Okay. Let's put in 300,000. Okay, 300,000. And let's say interest rates drop to 5.5. And so we're going to do 5.5 this time. 300,000. There we go. All right. So still the bank wants on 300,000 at 5.5, the bank wants $313,000 in interest. All right. Let's just see how long it takes to pay this down to 150,000. Okay, let's scroll down. 150,000. And we'll do the math. 150,000. We're scrolling. Okay. 150,000. And I'm going to show you why it takes so long. Okay. There we go. We're just about there. Man, this takes a long time to get down to 150,000. All right. We're finally there. We're finally right around in here. 150,000, 980, 149,000, 969.56. So we paid the loan down by $150,030. How much interest did it take to get there? $270,000. That's why it takes, let me see, that's 247 payments. Let's bring our calculator back on the screen. 247 payments this time. Divide that by 12. 20.58 years. I don't care what you put in here. You can do this all day. Get Brett Whistle, do it for yourself, and see how expensive it is to pay the mortgage down just to pay off half the mortgage. Because what's happening, ladies and gentlemen, all of your money is going to principal. I mean, going to interest, and very little of it is going to principal in the first years. So let me do the math for you here. Let me do the math for you. On these first payments on the 6.5% loan, this is why it takes so long to get to pay off half, because it's set up this way. You're not doing anything wrong. You're looking at your mortgage. You're doing the best you can. You're even rounding it up. You're paying a little bit extra every single time. You're doing whatever you know to do, even doing biweekly payments, doing everything you know to do. But the principal barely moves because it's set up that way. It is not because you're doing something wrong. But watch this. Here's what the bank loves. And we're going to get into this a little bit later. Okay. Banking loves this part right here. Your payment is $2,591.48. The first interest payment is $2,220.83. So when we put our calculator on the screen, we're going to put in, okay, we're going to put in the first interest payment, which is $2,220.83. And we're going to divide it by the whole payment. which is $2,591 and 48 cents equals 0.856. That's 86% of your payment is interest. That's why it takes so long. Oh, 86%. So 86 cents out of every dollar you're putting towards this mortgage, the bank keeps, and you're paying your home off with 14 cents out of every dollar. That's what is going on. Do you see this? Do you see it? And why it takes so long to pay off the first half of a mortgage? Because of this, because of how much money they get to keep. Now, I want to make this abundantly clear. The banks really don't care what your payment is. What they care about is how much of your payment they get to keep. That's it. That's what's going on here. Now, if you're on Clubhouse and you want to see these numbers, go to YouTube and you'll be able to see it. I got the link at the top. All right. Ask questions. Do what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen. If you're watching us on any other platform, put your comments in. All right. Now, I need you to see, what can we do? What can we do to speed things up? Do I need to do one more example? Maybe we do. Let's do one more example. Let's do an even smaller mortgage. Remember when the interest rates were 3% and everybody loved it? Okay. Let's do, we're going to bring up Brett Whistle again. Okay. Let's do a $200,000 mortgage back when, when things were good. 200,000 at not 4%, but let's get it to 3. I don't think we'll ever see 3% again, but maybe we will. But let's do this. Let's take a look and see how this happens. The payment now is $843.21. The amount of interest at 3%, we're borrowing $200,000. The amount of interest that the bank wants us to pay is $103,555.60. Folks, that's 51%. Let me show you here. 51.778%. That's what that is. So even at 3%, the bank still wants you to pay 51% of what you borrowed in the form of interest. And this is how this mortgage is set up, even at 3%. Okay, look at this. Okay. Uh-oh, something's wrong. 200,000. Okay. At 3%. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay. 200,000 at 3%. Okay. It says somebody on Clubhouse is saying, I'm in year 18 of paying off my 227K mortgage. Help. Listen, I can help you. Go to ceodon.com, ceodon.com, and click on the link that says get a savings and earnings report. That's free. That's a free report. And then we'll be able to tell you the month, day, and year you can be debt free on this mortgage using your current budget. Okay. So let's do that. But let's go down. I want to go down here and see how long it takes, because here $343.21 goes to principal, but it cost you $500 to get it. All right. So let's go down to see how long it takes us to get to $100,000 on this mortgage. 100,000. All right. We're scrolling. We got 3 examples here. This is the third one. And we are here at $100,000. Okay. So here's our principal, 99,000, and the next month 220 payments, $100,500. But look how much interest you had to pay to get it. $84,000, $85,000 here. So we're at, let's stop at 220 because it's an even number. All right. So we're going to bring our calculator up again, and we're going to put in 220 divided by 12. Okay, divided by 12, and that equals 18 years. So even then, 18 years it takes to pay off half the mortgage. Somebody in the UK, hello, can you help if I'm in the UK? Yes, our business is international. We have clients in the UK. We can definitely help you there. So all we just plug in, instead of dollars, we just plug in, it's just pound sterling. The units are the same. All right. The math is the same. It's all numbers. It doesn't matter if it's dollars. It doesn't matter if it's pounds. Okay. So you do the same thing. Go to ceodon.com to get a savings report. And definitely now, also watch our videos here on YouTube. I've got a ton of videos there that you can learn from. So yes, we can definitely help you. And this is somebody that is watching us on YouTube. All right. That's Carol Bentley. All right. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your question. Let me put this on the screen for everybody to see. This is what she asked. There it is. All right. Can you help if you're in the UK? Definitely. We can help in any country in the world that has a stable economy. All right. Excellent. Now, I want to go over something that most people think about doing. They have paid more, they rounded up, but one of the things that people do is refinance. Can I go over some points of refinancing that most people think actually helps to lower the payment? And I'll show you what goes on behind the scenes. Are you interested in seeing what refinancing actually does on these loans? So if you are, I need you to put a number 9 in the comment section or in the chat section, and I will show you what happens when you refinance to lower the payment. Okay. So if you put a number 9 in, somebody, somewhere, that means you're watching, you're listening, you want to know more about what is happening. Okay, Dennis, you put a number 9 in. All right. So I need you all to watch this. We're going to go back to our original situation, and we're going to break it down piece by piece by piece. Most people refinance between 5 and 8 years. I see you, Colette. 5 and 8 years. All right. Being in the mortgage. Can I show you what happens if you're into this mortgage between 5 and 8 years? Let's go down to 8 years. Okay, that's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, you've made 96 payments. 96 payments. You're in it for 8 years. Look, you paid your mortgage down. You started out at 410,000, but you've only paid it down to 46,507.78. Look how much interest it cost you to get there. And you've only been in 8 years, and now it's time to refinance because you're at what? 6.5. Let's say it drops to 5.5. Okay. Now you tell me, do you want to see how this can happen if you goes to 4.5 or 5.5? All right. You tell me. I need some audience participation here. Do you want to see a refinance at 4.5 or 5.5? And the first one that puts that in, I will do that number. 4.5% or 5.5%. We're at 6.5 right now. So what do you want to see? 5.5 or 4.5? And if you don't tell me in a second here, I'm going to choose. All right. Somebody put it in the chat. Okay. I'm at 6.5, and now I can refinance to get a lower rate. What would you like to see? You know what? Let's get aggressive. Let's just say it drops down. Okay, Colette, you're good. All right. She says, let's do 5.5 because she said that's probably more realistic. So let me go over with you what's happening here. So we paid this loan down to $363,492.22. That's what we're going to refinance. But with every refinance, guess what has to happen? You have to close on it. All right. So there's closing costs on the refinance. So what we're going to do is put about $10,000 into closing costs. But guess what? The bank never asks you to pay it out of pocket. They said, listen, roll it into the mortgage. All right. You were at 6.5. Now you're at 5.5. Borrow the money from us, roll it into the mortgage, and it'll only raise your payment by a few bucks. And that's true. Most people don't pay the closing costs out of pocket. They rolled it into the mortgage. So this would make it $373,000 by the time we put it into the new mortgage. So we're going to copy this. Okay. All right. We're going to duplicate this tab. We're going to go up here and do some comparisons. So we're going to write this in. All right. This is the amount that we are refinancing. Brett Whistle does not like the commas, so you got to take that out. And now we have to add in the $10,000. So we're going to add that in. Okay. Now here's the trick, and it really doesn't matter, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Okay. Most people who refinance, over 90% of people who refinance, get a brand new 30-year loan. It's not the interest rate that actually lowers the payment. It's taking what you owe and dividing it by a new 360 months. That's what most people do. So if you've been in this loan for 8 years and you refinance it to get a lower payment, they just added 30 years on. That means it's a 38-year mortgage, doesn't it? And that's what most people do. And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you what happens here. So now we have 2,000. Our payment right now is $2,591.48. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something very interesting here. Okay. Very interesting. So now we're going to take this old payment out and put the new payment in. Okay. Which is $2360.72. Okay. That's okay. We were at $2591.48. Now we're at $2360.72 because we refinance. How you doing, Kim? All right. We just refinanced this. I want to show you a couple of things here. Number one, how much money. So when we started this mortgage, okay, over here, they were keeping 86% of your payment right here. And you are getting 14% going to your equity. When we go down here, I want to show you, because the more you pay on this mortgage, the more of your money you get to keep that goes to equity. So now we're going to take a look at the full payment. And here's the amount of interest that we're going to put in. Okay. So this is the amount of interest that you're paying now, not what you were paying before, because as you get deeper into the loan, you pay less and less interest. So we're going to put in $1,972. You need to stick with me on this. You do not want to miss this part. Okay. 0.27. Remember when I said the bank doesn't care how small your payment is. What they care about is how much of your payment they get to keep. All right. So they started out at 86%. Let's see where they are now. Our full payment on this mortgage, okay, our full payment is $2591.48. So we're going to divide this by 25. Okay, let's see here. 25.91 and 48 cents. 0.48 equals 76% now. Now their portion has been lowered to 76%. Okay, 76%. So the longer you stay in it, this is called the bank profit zone. Okay. They started out at 86%. Now they're down to 76%. Now, if you are in this business, if you're in the banking business, and you know that out of the payment, you're keeping 86% of the payment, and now you're down to 76%, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep getting less and less if you're the bank? Or do you want to try to fix it so that you can keep more of the payment? Let me show you something that no one has probably ever showed you before. They're down to 76%. And now you just refinance this thing. Okay. You just refinanced it. All right. You've got a lower payment. Okay. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So your payment now is to 2360.72, and the interest portion is 2023.08. All right. So remember, you got a lower payment because you've got a lower interest rate. All right. And so you should feel good about that. So we're going to put our first interest payment here on this loan. Okay. Our first interest payment is $2,023.08. Uh-oh. Delete 8. All right. And our full payment is 2360.72. 60 and 72 cents. Now, before I calculate this, remember, they were at 86% on the old loan that they were keeping at the beginning. It got all the way down to 76%, and then they started flooding you with refinance offers and a lower interest rate. Okay. And now they were down to 76%. Let's see where they are now. Okay. Back up to 85%. What? Yes. Now they're back up. See, you were getting closer to your benefit zone. They were losing traction in their profit zone. So they offered you a refinance at a lower interest rate. And then you have now a lower payment. So you are feeling happy about that. But guess what? They're back to 86% of the payment they get to keep. My goodness. You see, let me tell you a story about my barber. His name is Tommy Henry. All right. All you guys in Battle Creek, Michigan that are listening to me right now, because that's where I'm from, everybody knows Tommy Henry. So I'm sitting in this barber chair in Tommy Henry's barbershop. Every part of that thing made money. He's the first guy I ever knew way back when, in the 70s, all right, that had his own payphone. He bought a payphone. He didn't want to pay the telephone company to put a payphone in his barbershop. He says, let me find a payphone for myself. So he buys it. He's got it. He's got pinball machines, which I love pinball because of the barbershop. He's selling snacks, candy, and chips. He's got a pop machine in there. Some people call it soda if you're, from the East Coast, but we call it pop. So he had a pop machine in there, and he had barber chairs in there. He was doing all kinds of things to make money in that shop. And he asked me while I'm getting a haircut one day, he says, Don, what do you think makes the most money in this barber shop? I gave him a couple of guesses. Maybe it's the pop machine, maybe, the chairs or whatever. He says, no, it's the gumball machine. Yeah, the gumball machine. You mean the one that the kids put a quarter in and they get a gumball out? Yeah, that one. I looked at him crazy. I says, the gumball machine? He says, yes. I said, they only cost a quarter. He says, yeah, but they only cost me 4 cents. Let that breathe for a moment. It doesn't matter how much it costs. What matters is how much the bank gets to keep. So you were getting out of their profit zone by paying down the mortgage. So what do? They come at you with a lower interest rate so that you can get a lower payment, and they say you are saving money. We had you at 86%, you're getting down to 76%. And so they offer you a lower payment, a lower interest rate, and guess what? You're back up to 86% of the payment they get to keep. They don't care how much your payment is. What they care about is how much of it they get to keep. My. So, folks, if I want to show you something else, All right. While we're here, let's go back. All right. Let's go back to this first mortgage here. We're going to go back to 205,000, because that's where half the mortgage is. 205,000. Okay. Uh-oh, I went past it. Doggone it. Here we go. All right, around 205,000. We're right here. Okay. Where the lion's share of the interest has already been reaped out of this thing. Okay. They're already at $459,000 in interest. The total amount of interest that they wanted, okay, the total amount, where is right here is 552,000. They wanted 552,000, and by the time you pay off half, okay, you've already paid $459,000 of it. So at this point, do they really care what happens? The whole amortization schedule is set up for this, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I need you to watch what happens here. Do you see how much is going to principal now and how much is going to interest? I need you to slowly show you what happens here as we get deeper into this thing. Look how fast the amount of principal starts to go up. Okay. This is called, the last 10 years is called what we call the borrower's benefit zone. The borrower's benefit zone, where you collapse this mortgage so much faster, but it's in the last 10 years. Look how much money is going to principal. Look how much is going to interest. And look what happens. We're at 1,048, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months. We're down to 997. Look at this. Now we're down to $800. Now we're down to $700, $600, $500. See, they don't care about this part, because these little balls, they don't care about that. They'll give you that. That's if you ever get to this part. Okay? Look at this. They'll give you these little bits of, listen, they'll give you that. They don't care about this much interest. They want to keep you in the borrower, in the bank profit zone. The bank profit zone is the first 20 years. The first 20 years is the bank profit zone, and they want to keep you there. So let me go over what happens to automatically keep you in the profit zone, and you don't even realize that you're in the profit zone. One thing that we just went over is paying or getting a refinance and paying $10,000 for the refinance. Okay, so we just refinanced. Okay, it put us back into the profit zone at 86% that they get to keep, and we paid them $10,000 to do that. I need to make this abundantly clear. Okay, we paid them $10,000 to get a lower payment so that they can get back into keeping 86% of our payment. And then they roll the $10,000 into the mortgage, and look at what else they're doing by doing that. Let's pay back the first $10,000. That is the closing cost. In the first year, you only pay off $4,174.56 of the closing costs. And this is at 5.5%, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. You just paid off $4,000 of that. Okay. And now look at this. 24,000 of it is interest. You're paying off you're paying off the closing costs here. You paid off the first 4,000. Look how much interest they charge you. By the time you pay off the whole $10,000 in closing costs to get back to your original $363,000 that you had, it takes 28 months. It takes over 2 years just to pay off the $10,000. I thought I was going to get more comments than this. Okay, I really did. So look at this. And it costs $55,921.40 in interest to pay off the first $10,000. Let me show you what that really, really means. So if you pay off, if we take $10,000, okay, and if we pay back $10,000 in interest, isn't that 100% interest? I borrowed $10,000. I paid back the $10,000 plus $10,000 in interest. Isn't that 100% interest? But what if it's $20,000 in interest? 200%. $30,000 in interest. 300%. Or $40,000, $50,000. Folks, this is a 500% loan built into a 5.5% mortgage. You borrow $10,000 to get a lower payment. They roll it into the loan and then they charge you almost $56,000 in interest just to pay back the first $10,000. It cost you over 2 years just to get back to where you started from. This is more profit zone for them. This is hyper profit zone right here. 500%. Do you realize that refinancing is huge business, not just to keep you in the profit zone, but how they can take a little bit of money and make 300%, 400%, 500% interest on a small amount of money, and you feel good about it because we have been made to feel good about it because everybody's talking about getting a lower interest rate. When you lower the interest rate, you make it harder to pay off the loan, not easier. So we went over two things: getting in the profit zone. We were at 76%. Now we're back to 86% of the payment they get to keep. They charged us $10,000 to refinance, and when we did that, now it takes $55,000 in interest to pay back the $10,000. That's over 500% interest for them on that. And the third thing is, because of what they did here, lowering the interest rate, it makes it harder to pay off the loan. Let me show you something here. At the 6.5% interest rate, I need to show you something here, and you need to write this down. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Control the principal payment and you control this loan. At 6.5%, the principal payment is $370.65. They're small, they're tiny. And if you pay the way the bank wants you to, it's going to hurt you. But if you know how to read this thing, it will definitely help you. I need you to see here that you have more leverage. So when you invest, let me try to explain it this way. When you invest, do you want to invest a small amount so that you can get a larger return? Or do you want to invest a big amount to get about the same return? Oh, let me put it this way. Do you want to invest $1,000 to make $10,000? Or do you want to invest $10,000 to make $10,000? You would rather invest $1,000 to make 10, wouldn't you? Watch what we do here. And this is how the mortgages work. This is why it's not taught in school. This is why you don't see it on the internet anywhere. This is why you don't see it. And the reason why I see it is because I have ASD, autism spectrum disorder. When I look at an amortization schedule, I see the numbers. I don't see the numbers. I see the pictures and the patterns. And I see what they're doing. And now I'm giving it to you. Okay? So 300, and the second payment here is 372.65. Let's say you make the first payment, and if you had it, you could give them the $372.65 early before the next payment is due. This amount of money goes straight to the principal. You're paid down to line 2 on this principal balance, and you drop down to line 3 immediately for the next month's payment. So you eliminate one line from your mortgage for prepaying $372.65. And you skip this $2,218.83. You never have to pay that. Because you prepaid the $372.65, you don't have to pay the $2,218.83. You don't have to now. And this is what they don't want you to know. The smaller the principal payment, the more leverage you have to get rid of the loan faster. So if we had, let me show you this. We're going to duplicate the tab. Okay. So we're going to do the same thing here. 410,000 at 6.5. We're going to drop it down to 4.5. Some people buy their rate down, and sometimes a builder will buy the rate down for you. We're going to do the same 410,000, and we're going to drop it down to 4.5. Here is our payment. It's $2,077.41 versus what we had before, which is $2,591.48. Okay, so we have $2,077. Okay, now I need you to see this. After we drop the interest rate, look at the principal payment now. $541. So if you make this mortgage payment on the first, now you have to come up with $541.93 to eliminate one line from your amortization schedule. When you lower the interest rate, you make it harder to prepay, to knock out interest and to knock out payments. And the people who own the bank know that. So let me show you another difference. Let's take a look at 1 year on this loan. This is crazy stuff right here. This is crazy. 1 year on this loan, you're going to pay this loan down by $4,582.68, and they want to charge you $26,500 to do it. But what if you had this money in the bank, sitting in the bank, making 0.1%? Could you pay this all at one time on line 1 and be paid down to line 12 in 1 month? Guess what happens here, ladies and gentlemen? For $4,582.68 paid this way one time, or you can pay it in 12 monthly installments to get here in a year. Okay. But if you paid it all at one time, you're down here in 1 month and you skip all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12. And when you add it all up, it comes to $24,316.94 in interest you just saved to get to buy the same amount of equity. You can do it the bank's way and pay them $26,500 for your $4,500 in equity, or you can pay them $2,220.83 for this much equity if you give it to them all at once. And this is what they don't want you to see. Because if you lower the interest rate, watch this number now, $4,500. If you lower the interest rate, it now takes $6,614 to do the exact same thing. To knock out 12 payments, it takes $6,600 to do it. When you have the higher interest rate, it only takes $4,500 to do it. There's so much going on in this thing, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why we're writing a new book, so that we can get this information out to you. Listen, I hope that this idea shows you that lowering the interest rate is not the thing to do. Control the principal payment is the thing to do. You want to increase your leverage. Right now, they have all the leverage because they have all the knowledge about how this thing works. Do you want to know more about how it works? Listen, just go to ceodon.com and request a savings and earnings report. We'll be glad to share with you how it all works. All right. But you need to know this, that by refinancing, you make it better for them. By lowering the interest rate, you make it better for the bank. By not understanding how an amortization schedule actually works, and relying on information that comes from the media or from other gurus, by saying, to handle this, get a 15-year mortgage or put a big down payment on your mortgage. Everything that you know to do to fix this mortgage situation for yourself keeps you in the bank's profit zone longer, and they make more money. You want to know how to collapse the bank's profit zone, okay, in about 5 years. They want you to collapse their profit zone over 20 years, but you can collapse it in 5. You can pay it off in 7. It is possible to do that once you realize how the whole thing works. It is possible to do that. Get out of the bank's profit zone. Get into your benefit zone, and you can do that with the amount of money that you already make. Watch these videos. Watch them over and over again until it sinks in. Play around with Brett Whistle as much as you possibly can. I hope this has been beneficial for you today. All right. And we're working on a whole new book called we're calling it The Mortgage Matrix. And this is just one of the examples in the book where we're giving this to people, letting them know that the bank looks at the first 20 years as their profit zone, the last 10 years as your benefit zone. But guess what? 9 out of 10 people you know never make it to the benefit zone. They stay in the profit zone their entire lives. They will get a mortgage. They will refinance it to get a lower interest rate. They'll outgrow that house. Okay. And then they'll get another bigger house, but a new 30-year mortgage, which puts them squarely back in to the bank profit zone. Okay. Then the interest rates will drop again, and then they'll refinance it again. Then maybe they want to take cash out to pay for the kids' college or to do some upgrades in the house. And then that puts you back in the bank's profit zone again. Everything that you've learned to do keeps you in that profit zone. Even when you retire and you want to downsize, get out of the big mortgage and get a small, tiny mortgage because you want to get a smaller house. You don't need the big house anymore. The kids are gone. And then you get another smaller house. But if you get a mortgage, you're right back in to the bank profit zone. Even if you paid your mortgage down by a lot and you put a big down payment on that house, you need to look at how much money the bank gets to keep. And we show you all of this in the book. Keep watching this video. Share this with other people. Okay. And if you want to know how you can get out of debt in 7 to 9 years, play around with this thing. If you need help, get a hold of us. Get a free savings and earnings report, and we can show you how to optimize your interest savings. I want to thank you, everybody, for being here today. I hope that this information was good for you. We're going to be back here next week with more information about how you can win this debt game, this mortgage game, how to pay less interest, how to increase your leverage, how you can win at borrowing money. We want you to leverage the heck out of this money. We want you to borrow at the lowest interest cost possible for you, pennies on the dollar. My goodness. I love it when you can borrow money at 75 to 80% off. It's like taking a coupon to the bank and saying, yeah, I don't care what your interest rate is. Charge what you want. I'm not paying it, because by the time I'm done with this, listen, I'm only going to give you about 20 or 15% of what you were looking for in the first place. So I really don't care what the interest rate is. So, folks, listen, thank you for being here today. I'll be back. Let me take this off the screen. Okay. And change my banner here. All right. There we go. All right. I'll be back next week. All right. With more good information for you. Thank you for being here. And I'm getting ready for our outro music. All right. See you next week, everybody.